The purpose of this model is not to define scientifically the concept of creativity and innovation, or the relationship between them. We will spend just the first part of this chapter on this. Instead, the main goal is to understand the importance of these elements both for the individuals and the European 21st century societies. Furthermore, we will present some practical tools and theoretical aspects that teachers can use in order to foster creativity and innovation in their students. If schools and teachers want to be leaders for their students and help them for their future, they necessarily have to take care of important elements like creativity and innovation and favor them in the teaching learning process. Teachers must embrace the idea of creativity and innovation as basic features for the happiness and the success of new generations in our world today. Finally, we will introduce and analyze the important topic that refers to the new technologies, with a focus on smartphones and social media, and how they can affect our ability to be creative, innovative, and even our happiness. We start asking the participants to write down a definition of creativity. Then we share our thoughts and we can comment on the common things, the differences, curiosities. We read together the definition of creativity, explaining that it is just one of the many we can find on the internet. We want to underline that it is compared to the idea of invention. The idea of invention leads us to the idea of innovation. That is a really basic concept for schools and education. If we read this definition, we really do not know whether it refers to creativity or innovation. In red, you can read the questions that can be asked to our participants during the course. Has creativity always had the same importance as today? How much the society has changed, and how much the school did? These are questions we could start with this second module. 40 years ago, school missions was to prepare students for a job that was largely established already. The parent's job, or even something else that could be relatively easily reachable if one studied. Today, jobs are different. Getting one is more difficult, but the school seems to be unable to respond to these new problems. Today's new generations are asked for more and more titles, and they have to pass many tests, and finally, even when they have collected all these qualifications, the job is not automatically reached. Good school grades do not correspond automatically to a good job. There are new elements that cannot be assessed with titles and grades. These are soft skills, and they are more and more important to find a job in our societies, but also to find a balance and to be able to tackle the challenges of our time. Among soft skills, we find also the ability to find innovative and creative solutions to the problems. Think about how important it should be for students to learn these skills, both for their self-esteem but also for their professional future. So the question that we can ask now is this: is the school focusing enough on this matter? Sometimes yes, but in general too slowly. It should anticipate the changes of the society and prepare the students for them, and not to follow them. School is moving slowly because of two big problems. Here we can analyze them and say that we individually can do little about them. The first problem is related to grade and assessment. In red, we find the questions that we can ask and discuss about. The second big problem is related to the hierarchy of subjects. Also here, we can open a discussion and ask participants if they find this problem also in their own school. We can do little to change these problems because they depend on national or sometimes regional laws about the curriculum. Anyway, we can start changing our mind and make something in our classes. Here there is a YouTube video. We can ask our participants to watch it and, in the meanwhile, write down the thoughts that they like most. After the video, we can follow with a discussion. This is the link to the YouTube video. In this section, we can see two practical activities. First of all, we can start explaining what is the 6 thinking hats. We briefly introduce this methodology and we can have the help of a video. Here is the link. After that our participants have understood how the 6 thinking hats works, we can start the activity. In order to complete the activity, you have to use the handout 1. Here you find the description of the activity and how it would be managed. So the name of the activity is Pineapple or Not Pineapple. We are talking about pineapple on pizza. The material that you need is just the 6 thinking hats cards that are already prepared, but this is a task that you could also complete with the help of your students. Let's skip to the phase of the preparation. After having described the 6 types of hats, ask the participants to give a vote to each one from 0 to 6, thinking about how much they recognize themselves in each hat. For example, I could give 0 to the black hat because I'm a completely positive person. Then we assign the roles. You can follow their votes, suggested if it's the first time you try out this type of method, or even do the opposite, depending on what you want. Of course, you can always assign the hats randomly, skipping the point 0. For example, if Luigi gave 0 to the black hat and 6 to the blue hat, Luigi can be the blue hat or the black one. Please pay attention at the point 1b. If you have 2 students, you can assign them 3 hats, asking them to use all of them, but not at the same time. Before one hat, then the second one, and then the third one. In the same way, if you have 3 students, you can assign 2 hats per student. If you have more than 6 students, you can create 2 or more working groups, or you can keep just a single group assigning more than 1 student per hat. Then we assign the cards and repeat their function. We explain the problem. You are the owners of a restaurant in Florence and you have to decide whether to insert in your menu the pineapple pizza. Give the time to search information on the internet, price of that pizza, reactions, other restaurants, and let the participants discuss. They have to come up with a common solution depending on their thoughts. While they are discussing, ask them to complete the group worksheet file. Then the last point is to share the final decision. For more information and the benefits of this method, you can check the other file, 6 Thinking Hats. The second practical activity of this section, the third of the whole module, is related to Padlet. Here you can find the link to the Padlet where the exercise will be done in a collaborative way. After you've shared the link, everybody will be able to be on this same page. So we can start collaborate creating our story. We can ask our participant to complete the first columns. Each participant can add one element that can be text or a picture or whatever they want. So participants here can be creative. You can also draw on the Padlet. So the teacher has already prepared some sections that participants must complete. In this section, we will see how new technologies, meaning internet and smartphones, can affect our soft skills, among which we find creativity and innovation. Here, we can also discuss the importance for a school of raising awareness and teaching new technologies, especially to new generations, but in general for everybody. We move on and we watch this video from Simon Sinek. We ask participants to write down some thoughts and, after the video, we follow with a discussion. We start to dig deeper into the topic of internet as the main element of the revolution that the world is living in the 21st century, the digital revolution. We comment the division of technological inventions in four categories. The first one is the category of inventions that improve our strengths and our skills, such as the airplane. The second one are inventions that extend the power of our five senses, like the microscope. The third, modify the environment for our needs, such as modified food. And the fourth, amplify and strengthen our mental faculties, like the clock. There are two main theories about technology. The first one is called determinism. It says that technology is something that humans cannot control, and we naturally tend to produce and invent. And we reproduce as a species just for that. We are sexual organs in a world of machines. The second theory is instrumentalism and says instead that technologies are just tools, and they are invented and used more or less consciously. Machines cannot control us. As it happens for every tech tool, there is a bilateral process. The human affects the machine and conversely. Any instrument can become an extension of our body or our mind, and at the same time, our body and mind becomes an extension of the instrument. It's modified by it, producing alienation. With Internet, this bilateral process is completely unbalanced. It means that many times we discover that Internet, with its powerful addiction, stops to be considered as a tool and becomes a need. Basically, many people cannot control Internet and the smartphone, being more or less aware of it. But why the addiction to smartphones is so strong? Neuroplasticity is one of the most important answers. The changes that new technologies are causing in our brain are very deep, at a very inner cognitive level, such as the ones produced by the invention of the book or the idea of time. They affect our way of thinking, learning, socializing. We can consider the brain divided into two sections: the working memory and the long-term memory. The working memory is limited. We remember from 2 to 5 things at the same time. On the contrary, the long-term memory is endless. There is no limit to the things that we can learn. But in order to move the ideas from here to here, we need attention, repetition, and or emotional involvement. We don't learn things without them. Now, internet jumps in. Thanks to our devices, we have the possibility to know anything, anytime. This causes what is called information overload or cognitive overload. And we constantly go and check new things because it's addictive. So we fill up our working memory and we push out our ideas. We don't allow our brain to do this movement, but instead we are training our brain to do this. Doing this means not to reflect on things, not to go deep into information, and since this is addictive, we tend to do so in many situations of our lives, causing these consequences: critical thinking, empathy, deep relationships, ability to focus, but also creativity and innovation are at risk. Now we can continue the discussion. We can say that this theory is based on Nicholas Carr's studies collected in his book, Is Google Making Us Stupid? Here we can just introduce to our participants the topic because it is a very long one and complex. Why we tend to look for new information overlooking the ones that we just got. And we have three reasons: the need for new information, so the need to know new things, a social instinct, and the idea of saving time and energies. This is the final activity of the module, the good practices for a better use of technology. So here we can brainstorm with our participants while the teacher writes in these spaces their thoughts. Some possibilities could be, for example, at school, to establish a no phone day. And of course, the teachers should give the example, hiding the smartphone during the lesson. We can use just 2 or 3 phones when it's time to make group activities or class excursions. So using the smartphone really as a tool. At home instead, we can establish situations where the phone is forbidden, like at the table or in the bedroom. Or we can start trying to leave the phone at home. It's not always necessary.